Welcome to Bloodbath and Beyond. Today we're doing a retrospective review of the Masked Mutilator. Outside the squared circle waits the ultimate ring of hell.
Directed by and starring Brick Bronsky, and also starring Jeff Sibbach, Doug Flex Yasinsky, Glenn Hetrick from Sci-Fi's Face Off, and James DeBello from Cabin Fever in his first ever recorded film, despite what IMDb says. Today's episode is brought to you by our other channel, Midcard Maniacs. It's a wrestling channel, and we're proud of it. So if you like wrestling, go over to Midcard Maniacs and check it out. We've got lists, we got bios, we got fantasy booking, wrestling content over there, Midcard Maniacs. Link is in the description. But also because this is a retrospective review, we are going to spoil things. And I know, it's weird, because it's dated 2019. Why is it a retrospective? I don't even know what really happened, like the full story, but this was shot in 1994, but released in 2019. So it's just been like being edited for like several years, decades even. So what do we like?
I love that this is a wrestling horror movie. It has a wrestler as our main character in Jeff Sibbach, who was the Masked Mutilator back in the day. And now he just like runs this group home with kids, quote unquote.
Right, they're actually all 40-ish? Like there's not one person here that I would say, oh yeah, totally 17. Because that's what the little hiccup here is. They're all supposed to be in this group home until they're 18, which means everyone is under the age of 18, including those who are showing tits.
And rocking like crazy mustaches.
I guess just movie casting in general is fucking wild sometimes.
That's what brings the charm. And I think it has like a certain campy feel because the characters and the people who play the characters are definitely over the top.
I ain't staying in here, man. You got me?
And that's something that's kind of weird too. We didn't find out until after the movie that this was shot in 94. So we were having this debate and this struggle like, are these guys really this bad at acting? Or are they putting it on?
You think I could talk to this kid rocker? I've got to keep a diary for my course at college. Or is that violating your restrictions?
No, as long as you're talking to Sel.
It's evident that there are some characters that are really trying to be over the top, almost trauma-esque. Specifically Jake the Stoner.
You think you're pretty tough, don't you? Well, Rocker's in the cell 'cause of her.
He was almost the only person that was like trying to be like over the top, which is strange, but maybe that's because he's the stoner. Which means everyone else was really trying hard and just doing a terrible job.
It was your mask!
My mask?
They're gonna fry you, Commando! Don't threaten me, punk! I ain't no punk, dickhead!
I don't know, the rocker was like really aggressive with his acting, especially in like the workout scene when he's like pumping up iron and like listening to rock music on like his stereo.
That didn't have a tape in it, by the way.
It's enough of that shit.
And finding out that that was Glenn Hetrick, it blows my mind. It's hilarious. I absolutely love that.
Everyone in this cast was a beefcake. Like there was no shortage of like wide thighs, large arms, deep V's, like rocking that V-neck.
That guy definitely reminded me of like Rob Van Dam 20 years later. Even though like 20 years after this, or 25 years later is now, Rob Van Dam still looks as good as he did 25 years ago. So like, if you were in 94 and were like, man, Rob Van Dam is gonna look like this guy. That's what this feels like.
Yeah, not one character in this movie would have been representing like the Power Belly squad. Like Otis and Tucker, no one in here is blue-collared strong.
I really enjoyed the action sequences. We have some like real fighters, real like kickboxers, and the choreography is shockingly good. Like people are whooping each other's ass, tons of like high kicks.
When we see the flashback of like Brian in the pool hall and he opens up with a kick, this is some like TMNT like Kano kicking ass in the toy store style.
Hey, maybe we can have these guys talk it out.
Take your psychology crap and shove it.
Oh yeah, well your methods work really great, don't they?
I liked that our killer killed people with wrestling moves. Like there's not a lot of kills, but at least he didn't like use a weapon. Like he wasn't like a slasher. He was like, I'm a beefcake and I'm gonna use my moves to like snap necks and smash faces.
My favorite was the bear hug. Even though you couldn't really tell what the fuck was going on, he picks him up and then just blood sprays on the light above. It was quality. There's not a lot of gore or anything, but there's a lot here that is still enjoyable. Like, you're not watching this for the gore. Initially, we were. And we're like, yeah, we're going to see cool wrestling moves and gore. But it's something much different. There are also some babes and some nudity. There's at least 4 scenes with nudity, including full frontal. And if you're into dudes, Brian, him waiting for the shower, this guy, holy shit.
Like I said, there's no shortage of beefcakes. Like, there's that workout scene where you have, like, Steve's, like, thighs and calves just like bursting out of his short shorts.
Dude is Vic with 2 C's.
And then you got Vic just like doing those like lifts and just like the one guy who wasn't ripped was still like flexing.
Like, well, that's mediocre at best. And that was proven later on when he couldn't lift shit. Now, what didn't we like?
This film gave the killer away right away.
That's
like,
what I was gonna say.
Like,
we were waiting to say our like dislike, and I'm glad it's the same one.
Yeah. After the first kill, you see the mask on, you're like, yeah, it's Steve.
This is going to be my final project. I'm working here.
You know 100% that Vic is not the killer.
Do you know why? No fucking Nancy Drews out there need to step forward. I got you. Because there's a big mouth hole, and Vic has a beard, and Steve doesn't.
And Vic has like a long ass ponytail that would take forever to tuck into that mask. Plus, like, Steve is not even close to being a red herring. The reason that he's like killing people, the reveal was absolutely terrible.
But it did give us James DeBello in his first role ever, being young Steve. So when I did the whole starring in the intro, I like neglected some major players like Leslie and stuff in favor of just saying James DeBello's name.
Get your hands off her now, motherfucker.
You could definitely tell Leslie wants nothing to do with this movie. I mean, we don't know exactly, but the fact that the film starts off in present day where they're interviewing Brian and a girl and they're like, sorry, this is like someone he just met. It's not Leslie. When in the movie, Brian and Leslie are a thing. So you know, like, they couldn't have her come back. But it doesn't matter because they could have just casted anyone.
And just said Leslie.
Yeah, you wouldn't know.
Literally any brunette. Just like, okay, that's Leslie now.
Yeah, 25 years later.
Oh yeah, because this guy actually is the same guy.
Yeah, it is the same guy. That's what I mean.
I was going to say they recasted him, but no.
No?
They just shot it now. Whoa, what a mind trip. I'm like, wow, that's good casting. He looks very similar. You know, there is a commentary that we didn't have the opportunity to watch or listen to, but now I'm absolutely interested to know what the hell happened for the last 25 years. If somebody knows and can summarize it, put it in the comments, I'll pin it. I had more issues when I didn't know, like, the history of this movie. But I'll still share them right now because it's still kind of weird. So when you're watching the movie, there's this grain to it. And you think it's because it's trying to be like an old school throwback. Obviously, we now know that it is an old school movie. It was shot on 16mm, so the grain is probably authentic, but from shot to shot, like somebody could be having a conversation and from one shot it has like a totally different color grading and like size of grain versus the grain on the other side. Maybe that's where the 25 years of editing came in, because it's like, no, I'm reframing this shot, so the grain is obviously going to be larger if something's scaled up to reframe something more correctly. And that's probably what happened, but watching it is definitely strange because going from scene to scene, it doesn't feel consistent. Very nitpicky, and I don't care now.
I was disappointed that Carl, our chef, didn't participate in the wrestling match showdown. It would have been cool to have all the big boys just like going at it.
I don't think they could have fit in there. And you saying a bunch of big boys going at it, I just picture Vince. Now it's time for our final thoughts and ratings. This was an interesting movie with a way more interesting history that I didn't know until afterwards. It's very 90s. For good reason. I think the idea is really cool. We have Masked Mutilator who accidentally killed somebody in the ring and is obviously now killing people. Or is he? With the worst reveal ever. Yeah, we know it's the other guy. Using wrestling moves to kill people is fun. There's quality nudity and just hilarious and enjoyable characters because everybody has their stupid stereotype. And the action sequences were so good. I've never seen such great kicks. I did have an issue with the way that the movie looked in general. I understand that it's because of probably changing things from 94 to 2019. It's bound to have some hiccups. The editing is strange and it kind of sucks because there are issues that could have been resolved with reshoots. But I mean, I guess like after so long, That's not a fucking thing. I didn't necessarily dislike this movie, but I also don't think it's one that you have to rush out to see. It's enjoyable, you will have a good time, especially if you're under the influence or you're with friends just hanging out. But it was still mediocre. So I'm gonna give this 2.5 booty jiggles while getting choked out of 5.
I had a lot of fun watching this movie. A lot of the things that should be a dislike, I really liked. The acting was not that good, but that's what made it fun. The style of the movie was very 90s, so it's a good like throwback to that era of cinema. I just had a lot of fun. I love that this was like wrestling moves being used to like kill people. I love that these kids are actually not kids.
I know you got some joints stashed somewhere around the shithole. You said you turned me on.
I thought I was.
Very funny.
Like, there's a few things I just did not like, and that has to do with the fact that you could tell right away who the killer was gonna be. And strangely enough, the rapper, we didn't need the explanation as to what happened 25 years ago. That didn't add anything to the movie. But the movie itself that was shot in 1994, just a fun time. You're really gonna enjoy this one. So with that being said, I'm gonna give this film 4 fellow chuckers out of 5.
As always, thank you for watching. Like this video and comment below with your thoughts on the film if you've seen it. If you haven't and you do want to check it out, links are in the description. And if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe to the channel, stay updated with everything Bloodbath and beyond. And if I haven't pushed it enough, subscribe to Midcard Maniacs for more wrestling content. Thank you.